In this video, we discuss the spousal benefit if both partners have their own work history and can both claim their own Social Security benefits. Coming up next on Holy Schmidt.
Holy Schmidt!
Many presentations about Social Security assume that there's one working partner and one spouse with no work history of their own, and therefore that spouse can only claim the spousal benefit. This is often the case, or at the very least, the spousal benefit makes the second partner's income look small by comparison, and therefore they would choose the spousal benefit over their own benefit. But then somebody somewhere asks the question, what happens if I claim my benefit now and claim the spousal benefit later? Or the larger partner, the larger earning partner says, wait a minute, I've got this benefit that can continue to grow. What happens if I take the spousal benefit on my partner's Social Security now and let my own benefit grow? That's what we're going to focus in on in this video. Let's begin with what I call the traditional presentation. You have one working partner, John, and his non-working spouse, Jane. Now, it could be the other way around, but the data shows that there are more females who collect Social Security spousal benefits than males, and so we're just going to go with the data. Of course, if there is Jane, who's the primary earner, and John, who's the stay-at-home spouse, well, this works exactly the same way, in reverse. John's an architect and earned a good living, and Jane stayed at home to raise the children, so has no work history of her own. Let's say that they're 60 years old and they're discussing retirement. John notes his Social Security benefit at full retirement age is $2,500, and Jane notes that because she has no work history, she doesn't have her own Social Security benefit, so she only qualifies for the spousal benefit. So what does this mean? Well, there's one cardinal rule with a spousal benefit which is really important here, and that is Jane cannot file for the spousal benefit until John files for his Social Security benefit. So if John enjoys working and Jane wants to file for Social Security, well, she has to wait for John. This means that if they're both 60 years old and John decided to wait until he's 70, well, that means that Jane needs to wait until she's 70 as well. Now, here's Jane's problem with all of this. The spousal benefit is not based on the size of John's payment when he files. It's always based on the size of John's payment at full retirement age. If John filed at age 62, it would still be based on the size of his payment at full retirement age. Let's assume that's 67. The size of Jane's payment is based on when she files for the spousal benefit. And it works the other way around. If John waits until he's age 70, Jane's payment still is based on John's full retirement age payment at age 67. What does matter is the age when Jane files. The longer she waits, the larger the payment, but only until her own full retirement age. Beyond that, it doesn't continue to grow. And for spouses who haven't filed for Social Security in 2025 or later, it's either 66 years and 10 months or 67. So like John, we're going to assume that her full retirement age is age 67. So if John waits until age 70, that means that Jane has to wait 3 years with no Social Security spousal benefit coming in, and it's already reached its maximum point. There's no benefit for her to wait beyond age 67. Now, a lot of people know that the most a spouse can receive is 50% of the primary insured's benefit, and that happens at Jane's full retirement age. At age 66, her benefit is reduced to 45.83%, at age 65, 41.66%, at age 64, 37.5%, and at age 62, 32.5%. Now let's assume John has a strong work history and his Social Security payment at full retirement age is $2,500. This means that the maximum that Jane can receive at her own full retirement age is half of that. So you divide $2,500 by 2 and you come up with $1,250. That's the maximum Jane can receive. On the other end, what happens if Jane files early at age 62? Well, at age 62, as I mentioned earlier, she can receive 32.5% of John's full retirement age benefit. That's $812.50. Now, if John had filed early, does this mean that Jane is required to file early? No. John can file at age 62, and Jane can wait until age 67 and receive the full 50%, or 66, or 65, or 64, or 63. It's her choice once John files. Now, what I described is clean, easy to understand, and often the case. Jane's payment is based on Jane's filing age, not John's, and she can't claim the spousal benefit until John goes first, until he files for his own Social Security. But what if Jane actually worked and was eligible for her own Social Security benefit? Well, this creates a completely different set of options for Jane, and that's what we're going to discuss next. Social Security is one of the most important financial decisions in a retiree's life, and there are many options to consider. If you're struggling to see how it all fits together, overwhelmed by the negative and sometimes contradictory news, don't just give up and do what a friend or family member does, because their decisions are based on their life, not yours, and this is a lifetime decision. I just released a course called Social Security Simplified to help you make the best decisions for your Social Security. If this is of interest to you, I'm giving a 50% off discount to early adopters for the month of August 2025. So go to holyschmidt.com/social security to learn more about the course. Now let's change the fact pattern a bit. Jane has her own Social Security. It's smaller than John's, and it's smaller than the spousal benefit, but she does have her own Social Security benefit. And let's say that John has filed for Social Security, so he's unlocked the spousal benefit for Jane. In that situation, can Jane take her own Social Security and let the spousal benefit grow? Well, the answer is no. And the reason is something called deemed filing. Deemed filing means that if Jane qualifies for two different benefits and you can't take them both at the same time, and you can't take both the spousal benefit and your own benefit at the same time, you have to choose one or the other. In that scenario, you are deemed to have filed for both at the same time, and the SSA just gives you the larger of the two. Now let's assume that Jane's own benefit is $1,000 a month and the spousal benefit is $1,250 a month. Even if you take the benefits early, they both discount back, and the spousal benefit will always be larger than Jane's own Social Security benefit. So when she files for one, she will have deemed to have filed for both, and they'll give her the spousal benefit. But there's an unusual provision in the deemed filing rules, and that is, even though you are just given the larger of the two, your own benefit, the one that you're receiving, in this case, the spousal benefit, is actually broken down into two separate payments. The first payment is what you would have received on your own Social Security amount, and the second is what's called a spousal benefit excess. So if Jane was filing at full retirement age, she still ends up with $1,250, $1,000 from her own benefit and $250 from the spousal benefit excess. So what's the difference? Nothing at full retirement age if John files first and she claims the larger of the two with the deemed filing rule. But what happens if John had not filed for his Social Security? Let's say that John loves his job and he's going to keep working until age 67. And Jane says, you know what? I don't love my job. I'm going to file for Social Security at age 62. Well, she could do that. But because the spousal benefit has not been unlocked, she only qualifies for one benefit, and that's her own Social Security payment. And at age 62, she qualifies for 70% of her full retirement age benefit. So instead of getting $1,000 at age 67, she's filing at age 62, she gets $700, $300 less. Now that $700, that piece of her overall payment, when the spousal benefit does eventually kick into place, is locked in at $700, not $1,000, $700. So that means that automatically $300 from her spousal benefit has been reduced permanently because she filed at age 62 for her own benefit. So the only thing left for Jane when John files is the spousal benefit excess. So if he files at age 67, she gets an additional $250, $700 plus $250. Her payment is $950. But what if John files at 66 or say 65 or earlier? Well, the only thing that remains is the spousal benefit excess, that $250. That $250 needs to be reduced for John's filing age. How do you reduce it? Earlier in the video, I showed you the discounts that were in place if someone filed early. What is the spousal reduction at age 65? Here it's 41.66%. But remember, the spousal benefit at full retirement age is half the primary insurance amount, which means it has already been cut in half. So do you use 41.66%? No, you double it and use that to determine the size of the spousal benefit excess. So double 41.66% and you come up with 83.32%. Times 250, that's $208.30, plus the original $700. That means her benefit when John does file for his Social Security benefit is $908.30. If Jane had waited until age 65 and just applied for the spousal benefit, she would have received 41.66% of John's $2,500. That's $1,041.50. But because she filed for her own benefit 3 years earlier, that portion of the spousal benefit is permanently reduced. So her spousal benefit is reduced from $1,041.50 to $908.30. If John waits until age 67, well, she gets her $700 plus the full spousal excess of $250. So $700 plus $250, again, is $950. Gang, dual entitlement, the deemed filing rule, and everything around this is one of the most complicated subjects in Social Security. And I wish I could tell you it was the only one. If you want to understand how it all fits together in an easy to understand way, check out my course, Social Security Simplified. This is a brand new course that's been out for less than 2 weeks, and I'm offering a 50% discount for early adopters, but you need to move fast. Go to hollyschmidt.com/social security to learn more. If you like this video, check out that video, When Taking Social Security at Age 62 Actually Makes Sense. This is Jeff Schmidt, and I will see you in that video right there.